You know I love me some G2 colors. They weren't scared to try flashy and standouty color schemes back then, and I love it. The figures from G2 or based on G2 usually stand out on a shelf or a display or a table, so when this caught my eye at TFCon for a very good price, I just had to have it. Some of you may be wondering what the hell is up with the title in the intro. Well, Dreadwing in the 90s had an awesome ad. I'm going to play it for you here just so if you have never seen it before, you can experience it for yourself, like the whole ad, because it's really, really fun. If you've ever seen the Paraka rap, yeah, prepare.
Run, it's Dreadwing!
And Dreadwing's class is deadly!
Dreadwing is punishing, his Gatling gun is ILLIN! The Decepticon bomber's a transformer rummer, a 3-in-1 villain that's chilling! Combat tank and sonic jet transform into double trouble robot! The missiles go boom, smelling certain doom if they take apart the awesome Autobot!
Autobots, help!
No one can save you! From triple-changing Dreadwing!
Transformers Generation 2. Dreadwing is all you see here. Other figures sold separately.
It is Paraka rap levels of cringe. Dreadwing here is a redeco and retool of Trilling 30 Megatron, the deluxe one. Only new tooling though is the head as far as I can tell, and it's a pretty sick head. I just kind of feel it's a bit out of place. It's just the sea of blue and then this one tiny black spot. I wish that the head was either bigger or there was a little bit more black on the torso to break it up a bit. It just looks too small and too dinky in that spot. Love the color breakup on this thing though. The shades of purple and light neon blue, and just probably radioactive with how bright it is. In fact, here it is under a black light and holy hell, this thing glows like crazy. The cannon though, I'm not the biggest fan of on this particular version. It's one of my two major gripes with this toy. I wish there was a way to mount it on the shoulder. They probably planned to make Dreadwing when they did Megatron, so they could have just put the head on the sprue as well to make it easier. If they did that though, they could have probably molded in a port on the shoulder to plug the cannon in, so for the Dreadwing release, so that he had his like, you know, G2 style where it's mounted on his shoulder, not on his arm. I wish there was that. But if it bugged me so much, I would either 3D print an adapter or get the original Dreadwing and forget about it. It's a thing I don't like, but it's also not that big of a deal. The second gripe is on the legs, not the gap, but the hinges. So the sides of the legs are on these hinges, and it feels like they're supposed to hinge over to cover the gaps on the back, but they don't. Like, it kicks the heel spur out a little bit and makes his stability a bit weird, and like the panels don't move at all for the transformation, so they didn't need to be on hinges. I don't understand why they're on hinges, and it makes handling the bottom of the toy really wonky just because it moves around a lot and you're like, why is this here? It is a very nice deluxe. The tooling is great. The plastic feels pretty solid. The joints, for being a used figure, aren't that bad either. There's a couple of loose bits, but it's most likely because I bought this secondhand. Posing is pretty standard for the time. He lacks today's standard ankles, waist, and wrist, but you can still get him in some pretty decent looking poses, and that deep knee bend just works super well on this guy. On my copy, the torso pegs do like to come undone quite a bit when posing him around. Not sure if that's because of the fact this was used or the mold thing. I've never handled any other versions of the mold, unfortunately. I do want to get the Last Night one though. That one looks cool. Transformation is just flattening him out, but the legs tuck away really nicely. Sliding the knee pad around everything when you enclose the legs is actually quite satisfying. The arms do a great job at pretty much doing nothing, but still becoming integral parts of the alt mode. The cannon though, it parts forms to become super important parts of the alt mode. And while it does become the weapon, so it's not useless parts forming, it's still parts forming large chunks, and I know that's going to bug some people. I see it as very clever weapon storage, and I don't mind it, but I know it is worth pointing out because it will bug some people if they're looking at this mold. Bomber mode is awesome. Again, the colors here are superb, and the cockpit shows how big this thing would be in real life, although it kind of doesn't scale with anything from the Thrilling 30 toy line. He does have underkibble, but like, it's consistent, and it's not a lot, making it look a lot less egregious. He also has landing gear on the front and molded wheels on the back, so that keeps him a little bit elevated off the ground. It's a pretty nice size for a deluxe. Just don't lose the wings, otherwise you have just a piece of like blue ham or like a pancake. The wings are important, don't lose them. Aesthetically, I think it works pretty okay for a modern generations collection if you just want to fill a Dreadwing slot until we inevitably probably get one in Legacy. So if you want to chuck like an quote-unquote IDW universe Dreadwing in your Legacy shelf, he doesn't look too out of place, I mean, he looks out of place, but it's fine to me anyways. I like this figure a lot, and most of its versions go for like 20 bucks or less, so I definitely recommend getting one if you're okay with the gappy legs and the quote-unquote parts forming. It's a lot of fun to mess with, and was the figure I messed with before the TFCon after party quite a bit, which that after party, by the way, was underwhelming, not gonna lie. But it's a fun figure. I'm glad I picked it up, and I definitely recommend you get one for yourself. It just looks really cool. I'm going to display this in Stealth Bomber mode because I think the Stealth Bomber looks the best out of the two modes. It just looks really cool. But that's my look at Thrilling 30 Dreadwing. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Goodbye. Ow! I just hit myself with the Dreadwing.